Everyone, welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. Today with us, we have Tracy Maylett. He is CEO at Decisionwise. We're going to talk about a bunch of interesting topics today. We're going to talk about Tracy's book as well. Tracy, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit more about yourself and Decisionwise.
I'd be happy to. Thanks, Charles. It's a pleasure to be with you. Decisionwise has been around for about 22, 23 years now. I've been the CEO for the past 15 years or so. Decisionwise focuses on the employee experience, what causes somebody to engage in their work or disengage in their work. And basically, what we're talking about today is a little bit about a book that we just completed, which is called Swipe. And that is dealing with why people finish what they start and why they don't finish what they start.
Yeah, that's a cool book and cool, very interesting topic. I've been managing employees for the past 10 years. It's not been easy. And I'm not one of the only nowadays to try to replace humans with bots. And I have this strong dilemma when it comes to recruiting new folks. Nowadays, I think I can only aim for people that are entrepreneurial and innovative, because pure executors, they're no longer relevant with like all these tools that we have and that are developing, and that trend is accelerating. But still, I did observe some factors on as per how to keep them motivated, deploy some innovative experiences, have them learn. Retreats are cool, but even before that, well, obviously compensation and what kind of work they do. Do they like doing that work? Is it stimulated? Is it aligned with their life's goals? So tell us a bit more about these factors that motivate someone to actually stay and perform, or just leave and find a new job.
Good question. Especially as we're facing this great resignation, or whatever it is that we're calling it today, the idea that people are leaving all over the place and it's easy to find a job down the street. The research that we've done is based on 50 million employee survey responses. So this is not a small database where this information came from. So as we started looking at it, we realized pretty clearly that people are leaving organizations today at an alarming rate. And one of the most interesting facts is that as they leave the organization, we find that about 40% of those individuals will disengage in the new organization as well in about 90 days. So it's pretty interesting. That same disengagement I take in my job today, I'll take it somewhere else. So as we were doing the research for this book, we found that there were 5 factors that cause people to stick around in any environment, in any relationship. So as we were studying for this book, we realized that these principles apply to the workplace, but they also apply in any relationship, in anything we do. Why don't we stick around? Why don't we finish what we do? We find that there were 5 main components, and these are easy to understand by the acronym MAGIC, MAGIC. So the first one is meaning. When I find purpose in my work beyond just the job itself, find purpose in my relationship, find purpose in what I'm doing, I will engage in what I'm doing. The A stands for autonomy, and autonomy is not anarchy. It's not complete chaos. It is basically having the parameters, the expectations, but having the freedom to act within those parameters, to use my talents in a way that's going to be appreciated and used and makes me feel like I'm actually contributing and am contributing. The G stands for growth. Growth is obviously the challenge and the stretch beyond what's normal for me today. We find that people are leaving organizations today for growth faster than almost any other factor, the ability to grow. Next piece is impact. The I is impact. That is seeing results from my effort. So it's pretty tough to go to work and then find out that today, all this effort that I put in, nothing was accomplished. Then finally, the last one is C, which is connection. This is a sense of belonging to something beyond just myself. It could be belonging to the people that I work with, could feel a connection with the mission of the organization, could feel a connection to the tasks. But those 5 areas, meaning, autonomy, growth, impact, and connection, are what cause people to stick around and engage.
I find that most humans are very much individualistic, and they don't think in terms of win-win. Normally, the employers employ someone because he wants to make money, right? Not really because he cares about them. And same for the employee. Usually employees win more out of that game, statistically speaking. Some entrepreneurs make a whole boatload of money because they're very talented and work hard and long and etc. I find that like both of these actors have very different goals and motivation. So how do you make sure to align the employee's motivation with the employer's motivation?
Good. This is a concept called expectation alignment. In fact, we even coined a phrase, expectation alignment disorder. And basically what that means is my expectations align with your expectations. And most of the time, we don't sit down and clearly define what those are. So the employer does not sit down with an individual and say, okay, now besides just coming to work and contributing these pieces, here's some things that I hope to get out of this relationship. What do you hope to get out of this relationship as well? Well, I hope to get my paycheck, certainly, but I also hope for these other things. I want to grow in what I'm doing, and I want to be autonomous, and I want to have this connection. And one of the things that we find is that, yeah, maybe that business is truly in business to make money, and it needs to preserve itself. There's no question about that. But these often align. And we find that people will engage and support that mission of the organization when they feel supported as well.
Is the solution to that full commission alignment? Would the future look like a software that can calculate every single piece of effort into generating X revenue and redistributing that percentage back to the person? Would that be a fair future and everyone very much entrepreneurial?
You know, interesting concept that we think often if we throw a couple of things at the problem will go away. Compensation will cause that to happen. Benefits, if we, you know, it used to be if we could come in and have our nap pods, you know, Google was famous for that.
Ping pong tables.
Yeah, ping pong tables, foosball tables. If we can throw all this at the employee, then they'll engage in what they do. And with that, people are often trying to design humans out of the system, meaning that, look, let's make it very clear. I will give you a piece of this compensation if you will do whatever it is. And the fallacy of that, the problem with that is that there's more to the job than just making or bringing that dollar amount. There's the customer service piece of that. How do we quantify that? You know, we can certainly do surveys afterwards, things like that. What about the building the relationships? What about the destroying relationships around me? There's a lot more to the job that can just be quantified by what are my sales numbers.
Yeah, true that. I just think that in the current relationship of things, especially when it comes to salary, depending on what stage is the business, the employer will win more giving a specific salary to the employee. And when they start, I think it's the other way around, like startups actually don't know how to compensate, and it's the employee that wins a bit more. Obviously, there's experience if you're going with equity 100%. Most people that work for a startup and go full equity lose. So I feel, I don't know, I cannot get this win-lose type of mindset. I've been trying to win-win a lot, and starting with this recession, you know, I'd laid off a bunch of employees myself, and I think there's always like a clear winner. And I'm all about honesty, and I don't love hypocrisy and trying, you know, okay, I'll pay you 100K per year, but I'll make 1 million on you, you know, that's 900K in my pocket. Why wouldn't I give you out more? So I still have this dilemma.
Yeah, I can see that. You know, it's interesting as we look at the bigger picture here, because employees aren't leaving organizations because they're not making money. They really aren't. I mean, it is great to go to the next organization where I'll make more money, but there's a certain point where that does not motivate an individual anymore. They're leaving organizations because I can't stand my boss.
Okay.
I don't like the working environment. It's not because the boss is making more money than I am. Yeah. It's for other reasons that they're leaving organizations.
Yeah. And that's when I'm trying to wrap my mind around, you know, because I've been an entrepreneur for so long that my mind only operates with the entrepreneurial mindset and the type of like do it by myself, because my answer to that is like, if you're not happy with how you grow, why don't you start your own thing? You know, stop being scared and start your own thing, work as a consultant, charge people higher fees, and be more in control of your actual schedule. Are you seeing more of that? And what is stopping people to start their own things and to really get the growth that they probably want? Or maybe that's not even framing it right. Maybe they can grow more in a company depending on their personality types, right?
Yeah, Charles, you're looking at this from your lens,
Yeah.
which is you. This is you. This is built into your personality. This is who you are. You are that entrepreneur. You're the classic entrepreneur. You're the
Mm.
classic individual that wants to finish what he sets out to do. It's you and I had a conversation on this a little bit earlier that if
Yeah.
I say I'm going to do something, even if there are these obstacles, I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Understand that you're a very unique individual. Not all of us are entrepreneurs. In fact, I am an entrepreneur, but I look at this and I didn't start out to be an entrepreneur. I became an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, it's not in their nature. They just don't have the desire to do that. And that's perfectly wonderful. So that small percentage of the population that fits into what you were just talking about, yeah, go start your new business. Go do what you want to do. The rest of us are very content and actually very satisfied by contributing to something that's already there.
Yeah, that's right. Don't you think that folks that do not want to get out of the comfort zone too much, do you think they'll be replaced by AI? And aren't we seeing a bunch of trends in the market of people just going by their own and starting their own stuff?
We are seeing some trends of people starting their own stuff. We've seen that all along. That trend is getting slightly larger, according to the evidence that we see, that people are starting their own thing. But again, there's still that huge amount of the population. In fact, the vast majority of the population, they don't have that entrepreneurial mindset. So the idea that they will be placed by AI, yeah, there'll be some pieces of that that's replaced by AI, but there are certain things that simply cannot be replaced by AI. And there'll always be a need for this. For example, let's take the entire look at healthcare, for example. There's still that need for a nurse-patient interaction that will always be there.
Yeah.
That does not mean that nurse is not entrepreneurial. He or she, that's the environment in which they choose to operate. So is that replaceable? Pieces of it, but certainly not all of it.
Yeah, I agree with it. Although I do see like robot nurse eventually that will feel very human, will look human also and so forth. And my mind also has the problem of thinking a lot in the future. And so like further of this lifetime, for example, I can imagine a world in which everyone's an entrepreneur because the cost of jumping into the entrepreneurship is like so low, and entrepreneur meaning like a consultant. And what will happen back then, I think like in say 100 years, I think when everyone's entrepreneurs, they will be clients of platforms, so that the platforms, the company, they will act as, their classic company. So they will negotiate their pay, their shares and so forth. That's not about to happen soon, but I think that the cost of entrepreneurship is going to go so low, and arguably in 2023, it's as low as it has been. Staying on the topic of employee motivation, because it's still a very important one. First thing first, how do you find people that do not jump ship after 90 days? How can I identify a person that will do so? And we've discussed about, some things that I can do as an entrepreneur to actually make that person happy. But is it about finding the right personality type, asking the right questions during the interview? Because it's pretty hard to change someone once they had the habits of just jumping ship. So what questions should I ask? What should I look for in a person that will be productive and loyal?
Well, I can't give you specific questions because each organization is going to be different. What I can tell you is that as we do employee surveys, we ask 50 questions or so, how you feeling about your employment, stuff like that. And beyond that, I realize that I can ask just one question to see whether or not somebody's going to stay around and engage in the organization. That question sounds kind of strange, but it's this: I feel like I belong here. And we find that single question will tell you whether or not an individual is going to engage in what they do, whether it be motivated, whether they take off. So what that tells us is that the key here is fit with the organization. It's not compensation. Compensation is certainly a part of that, but do I fit in Charles's organization? Can I be who I want to be in this organization? So as you're interviewing people, it's wonderful. We spend a lot of time interviewing for skills and talent and stuff like that. Wonderful. But what's going to keep that individual engaged in your organization is whether or not they feel like they fit. This is part of their makeup, who they are. Can I integrate into this organization? And I'm not just talking about, can I find a bunch of friends here? I'm talking about, can I really dedicate myself here? So in your interviewing process, as you're looking for people, Spend some time looking for fit in the organization. Will this person choose to engage? Is this person's personality type such that he or she will choose to engage in the environment in which they're operating?
That has very much to do with culture fit, I guess.
Sure.
And culture fit really has much to do with my personality. And my personality is mostly anchored in the entrepreneur stuff. So which makes it interesting. So I do tend to recruit more entrepreneurial profiles. In my specific startups case, also this year, not only will we go way more with technology and try to fix our problems with technologies, but also with partnerships and working with like other agencies and or more freelancers that are very entrepreneurial, align with our values. And ironically, in these values is entrepreneurship is like rev share and commission and so forth. But commission very much has a bad rap because most people offering it have crappy product. So it's kind of challenging for me, this landscape, but fascinating at the same time. I have a follow-up question that I maybe should have started off this interview with, which is, why did you get in that specific field of getting feedback from employees, producing surveys in HR? Why was that your guiding light initially?
Well, I started out actually in supply chain. So it was about distribution and supply chains that exist and what was causing that to happen. And I realized that what was holding the supply chains together were actually the relationships versus the technology. And we are a technology organization. We have developers. We focus in technology, but we also realize that the people hold that together. And so while I don't work specifically in HR, one of the things I do is work on how do we create an experience in which individuals in that organization will choose to give their all to your organization. And that's where that really started, that love and that interest.
Yeah, it's such a fun game also. Like, I think humans are fascinating and you learn so much from talking to people. And us humans, we're here for one main reason, apart from the large brain that we have, and it's that we're social creatures, right? So we need one another, we cooperate together, we form societies. So it's very enlightening, and it's fun also to understand human psychology, because if you understand human psychology, you can understand economy, you can understand pretty much everything that's around you. I want to ask, because you've been like CEO for the past 15 years, why the CEO role, and how have you been switching, let's say, from a position of back in the days as VP of organization, I believe, to straight up CEO? Why did you decide to make that jump? Is it ambition? Is it your love from managing pretty much everything at the same time? Why did you make that jump?
I started off by saying I never really set out to be an entrepreneur nor a CEO. That's not, 30 years ago, I would not have said I want to be a CEO of a company. Now I realize you have that within you. That's not me. That's different. One of the things I realized is that as a CEO, I could establish a direction for an organization. And as we started out, as I was a CEO for a company of, say, 30 employees, a smaller organization, I was doing everything. I was still very much there. I was really focused on the day-to-day things, working with the customers, checking our technology, things along those lines. And as our organization has grown pretty significantly over the last few years, my role as CEO has changed. So why a CEO? Well, my job is to provide direction and vision to the organization and make sure that we have the resources to make that happen, make sure we're going in the same direction. Now we have people on my team, fortunately, that are really good at the day-to-day stuff. They're really good at executing. They're really good at customer relationships, good at technology. So my role as CEO has really changed over the years.
And see that are the best CEOs the financial type, the human type like you, the operational type? What makes a great CEO?
That's really an interesting question, because there's been a lot of research that's been done on what are the traits of a leader. That is called trait theory, by the way. The idea that if I can figure out what the 12 traits are of a CEO that succeeds, then if I can emulate those, then I can be excellent. And the reality of that is there are a bunch of other things that tell us that that's not always the case. So I'm never going to be able to lead like Charles. I could not be you. And if I tried to nail down those 12 techniques that make you who you are, that make you so successful, I probably couldn't do that. So what we're finding is that the CEOs do a couple different things. One is, first of all, they have to be visionaries. They have to set the vision. They have to be the exemplars of that vision. They have to take care of their people, because their people are what provide those resources to make that happen. We call them human resources for a reason, as if there are financial resources or trucks or delivery vehicles or something like that. And the reality is we need to focus on them as they are our means for getting there. So what I'm saying with that question is that it's hard for me and hard for anyone to say, you must possess these 12 factors in order to succeed, or these 23 factors, or these 7 factors, because they're going to vary based on the situation, based on the individual, et cetera.
Interesting. As a CEO, you need to always be on or deliver incredible performances. What habits of your life have you been practicing to make sure that once you're at the office, you're hyper productive?
You and I talked just a little bit about this, and kind of a little bit about your background and my background here. The book that we wrote, the book Swipe, we wrote that because what we're finding is that individuals today, because of technology, have learned to swipe away from something very quickly, right? So if I don't like what's in front of me, I move to the next screen. And our brains have been conditioned to do this. And what we're finding is that those individuals who are the ones who succeed are the ones who don't just swipe out of discomfort. They're willing to face that challenge and grow. So one of the things that I do is, first of all, every morning while my brain is really sharp, instead of doing the emails and all of that kind of stuff, because emails basically dictate my day sometimes, I don't want that to happen. So this is where I'm starting to do my research. This is where I'm finding out, what are other CEOs doing? What about this company? What's happening with the economy? Things along those lines. What that allows me to do is I dedicate that time, and allows me to really focus. Now, the reason I brought up that piece of swiping is because those individuals who aren't successful, or those who find discomfort and move on really quickly, I've become really comfortable with discomfort. And I see that as an opportunity to stretch and grow versus an opportunity to move on to the next thing. And I see that in my day. My day starts out with challenges, and I look at those challenges and say, okay, how is this challenge an opportunity to help me grow and help my business to be better?
One last question for you, because we've got 1 minute left. I read an article the other day about you, that you wrote, actually. Does your organization reward competent jerks? I started having competent jerks in my company in the past couple of years, which ironically is a good sign, because in the past it was like incompetent, nice people. and basically, these folks didn't make my business advance. They didn't have ROI on them. How do you manage competent jerks? Because I just like that, I try to teach them to be nice, and that EQ is important to go far in life. I haven't been able to have them change the way I would want them to. And culturally, like we're not assholes in this company, like we care about people, where we have more EQ than most companies out there, but we're very competitive, and a lot of people they cannot deal with competition. I call it competition. So and they kind of move away. So how do you manage these folks that perform well but are not super nice?
Well, you have to first of all understand that a competent jerk is not just somebody who's competitive. Competition is wonderful in an organization, particularly in organizations like yours. That competition is excellent. It is wonderful. The classification of a jerk, however, is one who leaves kind of a trail of dead wherever he or she goes. So in order to get those results, he or she is so focused on the what that they're not focused on the how. And what happens is that how comes back to bite those individuals. And it comes back to bite the company. So despite the fact that that individual may have just sold something, you've faced this a number of times in operations, that we just sold something that we can't deliver, or we just sold something that the customer's not happy with. So an answer to your question is, you have to help that individual understand the big picture. Performance is not just the sale. Performance is also how that takes care of how that's been done. And some jerks just don't make it in an organization. Sometimes you have to say, appreciate your sales, but the rest of the equation's not there.
Yeah, because that's been my equation so far. I have almost a zero tolerance for assholeness. I'm not saying that I haven't been an asshole. Sometimes we all have our bad days, but at the end of the day, are you more of a nice person than you're a bad person? Typically speaking, do we share similar values about honesty, about not lying, for example? So yeah, very cool answer that you provided here. Thank you so much today, Tracy. I think you dropped a lot of value in short amount of time. Where can people find out more about you?
My pleasure, Charles. Thank you very much. I would steer you to the book itself because my contact information is there. It's swipethebook.com, all one word, swipethebook.com. And you can find my contact information there, and always happy to chat.
Yeah, decisionwise.com also.
Excellent. Very good.